Snowball and the Prettiest House. Plain things. Annie and her bunny Snowball lived in a house next door to Henry and his big dog Mudge. Henry was Annie's cousin. He was also her best friend. He taught her how to play frisbee. He showed her how to make a knot. He even helped paint her dollhouse. And Henry never made fun of Annie. He never made fun of her lace hankies or her frilly dresses. Annie liked dainty things. Henry was the best friend ever. Annie liked Henry. Annie loved Mudge. And Annie liked living next door. There was just one thing Annie didn't like, her house. It was a nice house. It was a clean house. But it wasn't a pretty house. And Annie loved pretty things. Annie lived with her dad, and he wasn't very good at making things pretty. Annie looked at the plain couch and the plain tables and all the plain things her dad had, and she wanted pretty. So one day, when Annie and Henry were sitting in Henry's backyard, Annie told him about what she wanted, while Mudge drooled on Snowball's head. You should go through our attic, said Henry. We have tons of pretty things, stuff from Grandma's and lots of ants. Really? Asked Annie. Sure, said Henry. You could borrow things for your house. Really? Annie asked again. Mudge came over and sat on Henry. Henry groaned. Would you like to borrow a dog too? He asked. Mudge just licked him. Annie picked up Snowball and smiled. She was finally going to have a pretty house. Wonderful things. Annie and Henry got permission from Henry's mom to go through the stuff in the attic. Just don't take Dad's tuba, said Henry's mom with a smile. Henry and Mudge and Annie and Snowball climbed the stairs to the attic. Wow, said Annie. Your attic is big. She looked over into a corner. Look at that pink lamp with the beads, she said. I love it. Snowball had already found a box to explore. Mudge was exploring a shoe. Here's a crazy quilt, said Henry. And look at this fancy mirror. Wow, said Annie. She saw a floor chair in another corner. Perfect, she said. Hey, said Henry, here's my old crib. Annie looked at the crib and imagined Henry in it. Then she imagined Mudge in it. She giggled and giggled, imagining Mudge. What's so funny? Asked Henry. Annie told him. Henry thought it was funny too. Mudge just ignored them. His shoe was too good. Annie found wonderful things in Henry's attic. She went home and told her dad all about them. She asked if she could change their plain house to a pretty house. Annie's dad was a good dad. Sure, he said. But can I keep my beanbag chair? Annie smiled and hugged him. A pretty house. Annie and Henry's parents and Annie's dad all helped carried pretty things out of the attic. They carried lamps and chairs. They carried tables and mirrors. They even carried a lovely old angel with a chipped wing. Annie loved her the best. Then everyone moved the plain things out and the pretty things in. It took moving this and that, to here and there, to get it all just right. But when they were finished, Annie's house was beautiful. "Wow," said Henry. "Where's the butler?" asked Henry's dad. "I love it," said Annie. Everyone celebrated with ice cream sundaes at Annie's new kitchen table. Snowball got a pistachio nut, Much got all the cherries, and everyone agreed. It had been a very pretty day.